Welcome everyone. My name's Vida and this is Sri Lankan Cricket Podcast, a podcast where we discuss current news and developments happening in the cricket world with a special focus on Sri Lanka cricket. This is episode 3 of season 1 and I'm joined by my co-host Sohan. How are you doing, Bora?
Doing good, Vida. Still locked down here in Melbourne, so routines have changed, but yeah, excited to be back for another episode.
Yeah. Have you been doing anything different in the lockdown? This is
Um,
our 6th lockdown, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, because normally because cricket season around the corner, normally matches would start in October in Victoria. So now it's with lockdown as players, we've got to self-train and maintain ourselves for the season ahead. So it's interesting, it's challenging. I mean, we've got to, for a professional player or a player heading into the season, they need to be a good discipline. A good disciplined player will be able to cope and condition themselves for the season ahead because it's all you're on your own. You've got to have good routines to follow. So it's an interesting one. There'll be a lot of unprepared or under the pump going into the season for most of the players with preparation.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, Bora? I mean, you have to motivate yourself to do things on your own, and sometimes you are locked in your house, and with these 5 kilometer rules and all that, it's really hard. So it's something
Yeah.
we have to get used to in these COVID times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, you've seen I'm just wearing a cap, my hair's growing. I'm going back to the era when Sangakkara brought the long hair fashion back in. So it's going back in time for that. But can imagine in Sri Lanka with lockdown. I mean, we talk about professional players and we relate a lot with the Sri Lankan setup. What we are going through, imagine in Sri Lanka a setup where it's pretty much the guys have to work on their fitness alone, unless there are exceptions that the professional players can train in facilities. We haven't heard it where the likes of our first class domestic players, say NCC, for example, the 11 at NCC, can they train at the facilities using the pool, the gym, the nets for those players only? I don't know. I don't think it's happening, but it's certainly a challenge going through in the lockdown stages.
no, you're right, Bora. Your hair's a bit grown, but you look good. You look fine. Can't wait to go and get a haircut myself. Starting to grow. So
Yeah.
it's been a crazy week in the cricket world. We will try and fit everything into this episode. So strap yourself in. Sri Lanka's first one-day series win since February 2020. It's been a long time coming, and
Yeah.
it was a really good series win. And we got England-India fifth Test match got cancelled due to COVID fears, and almost all the countries have announced their World Cup T20 squads, including Sri Lanka. So there's many more to talk about. So I don't know where to start, Bora.
Yeah, that's a fair call. I've been reading into the news of the squads that are being announced. I love matching up the players against the sides, see what combinations they're going into. But I think a good way to start is on a positive Sri Lanka series win. You know, you said it's back in 2020. It felt like it was longer than that for us,
Yeah.
but definitely something to look back and reflect. That's one of a massive win that we've had.
Yeah, looking at the performances of the one-day series, we managed to win the last game. It was a low-scoring game, but our bowlers managed to win the game for us. Matheesh Theekshana, he has a dream debut, Bora, and remember you called it. You said he's a talent to watch, and he came out and played
Yeah.
his first game.
I
Took
know
four
he looks
wickets.
pretty good. He's what I like about Mahesh Theekshana as a player or a spin bowler. He's got his poker face on. He never gives you much. I know from the little I've seen. So he holds his nerve. It doesn't. he goes at one tempo, even though the adrenaline's probably rushing, but you don't see it. But he's come a long way, and I think the camp would have had a lot of trust in him to lead the attack as well going into the last game. And you can see the difference he makes. A new guy, new feel. So he's settling into the side.
Yeah, no, he was brilliant. I mean, and Dushmantha, he bowled really well with the new ball. There was a brilliant catch at mid-wicket by Kamidu Mendes. It was a very good all-round performance to wrap the series up.
With Dushmantha Vida, you remember, like, his bowling was, I mean, he was raw pace. His batting, if you remember at NCC, his batting, he never got out whenever he got a chance to bat at NCC.
Yes.
I think we pulled off a win that, I mean, that's the one that Mubah scored 100. We came back from nowhere against Port.
Playing
at Bloomfield, and there was a partnership, I think, with Dushmantha as well. I think it was the 8th or 9th
wicket, I think.
Yeah, and Dushmantha played some good shots there. I think he scored 2 boundaries. Mubah scored the bulk of he carried the whole team of that game, but we saw glimpses of his batting that he can do, and now him be more comfortable in the playing group. You see he's showing glimpses of what he can do, and it's a bonus. We are struggling to find those runs from the tail, and that runs that he scored set it up. It's good momentum for the guys. Look, we managed to get to a score, and we finished off the innings well, which means when we start the bowling setup, we are at a good field. There's a good vibe about it.
Yeah, I think, like, as a fast bowler, I know, right, when you get runs, you take that with you when you're bowling. So it's a confidence thing. So that earned him the man of the match award as well. So he took wickets and got runs. So he's our spearhead when it comes to fast bowlers. And we had to talk about Asalanka as well, Bora. He played a gutty innings to hold the innings together and made sure that we got a score. He had a good series.
He's had a good series. Very rarely you find players. I mean, even when he started, there was patches. Like, he went in England, he started as a number 3 bat, wasn't the best setup, came here. There was a rejig, but we kept him at number 5 batting through. So bit of consistency, and we are seeing results. Like, he's only played a handful of one-dayers, and he's already showing what he can do. So maybe it's a good environment to be in. I mean, the players seem more comfortable around the leadership style of Dasun Shanaka, which could be a reflection, So,
what I heard him saying, Asalanka was saying, when he came to talk to media, I think Dasun and the coaching staff has given him the clear instructions that this is your role, to play in those middle overs, make sure that we get to a score and held the innings together. So that's a good thing to, especially when you just starting your international career, that confidence factor is very important. Really. You're not worried about losing your place after a couple of games. So
exactly,
that's the key.
And I think any game, I think even when you enter from first school cricket to first class cricket, you want to make a statement in the first 3-4 games that you get. Same way when you move into the international stage, guys, like, whoever gets a chance, want to make that impression straight up, and then they know, okay, hang on, I can play in this environment, I belong here. Because the biggest doubt we have at any stage, like when we play, even your first class game you play, it's a tough game, and you start thinking, should I be in here? Can I play in this? Those doubts start creeping in, and it's a hard one. We've never experienced that at international level, but I can imagine it's the same process, probably more pressure cooker scenarios. But now that Asalanka settled in, he scored a 50, I think, at the start of the series, and that kind of, he would have eased up. All right, I got this, my game's working, and he would have itself confidence that comes about your own self by putting in a performance. So
one other thing, I'll add one more to that. Like, remember, Bora, these batsmen, when they're playing for their club teams, they're batting top of the order. So when you're drafted to play a middle order role, it's a learning curve for them as well. If you are an experienced player, you can quickly get used to that and get the ball rolling. But for a young player to come out and play 3 very important knocks like that, I think that's really good signs for Sri Lanka cricket.
No, exactly right. And he scores at a good strike rate. That's a good one to see. So we need those guys in the setups, moving along, tagging along. So, but I mean, it's a good series win. We are now in the T20 part of the series.
Just played the first
we
game.
Bring the chocolates. We lost the first game, Vida. Like you say, we've struggled to get the first win under our belt of a series. So we are one behind in a 3-match series. Tonight, as we record, I think the game's gonna start in a few hours' time. So hopefully we can get that win on the board. At Kettarama, chasing over 160 generally is a tough task in T20 cricket. I think a team that would have chased it down would be India from memory. I think few series ago when they came back and they chased over 160. I think Hardik Pandya played a part in one of that games. But chasing, it's a hard draft for the listeners out there. We know at Kettarama, chasing anything over 260 or ranging above that. In the last game, chasing over 200 was tough. Imagine that in a T20 concept. Anything that goes over 140, it becomes a challenge to score down. So toss is a massive factor for us in this series. So hopefully, I mean, that one gets on the good side of the coin and sets the target up.
Yeah, you're right, Bora. And I mean, in the first T20, we were completely outplayed in all 3 departments of the game. So boys have to put up a very good show tonight and to be in the series. So
yeah, no, exactly right. It's let's see. Let's win the toss, and then after 2 games, we'll be able to see where things are happening. But like you're saying, completely outplayed because we rely on certain key players in this 11. I always think we've come to a stage of 5 players. I mean, a massive reliance on Avishka to perform. To a certain extent, Bhanuka, especially in the T20 competitions, and then Vanidu and Dushman to perform with the ball. So it's a massive factor there. I mean, we're reading in the news KJP might be coming into the 11. He's being cleared fit. So he boosters the batting at the top. You know how explosive a player he can be. If we are, I mean, like I say, we've been completely outplayed in the first game. What can we do to change things around? Probably KJP coming into the 11. It might mean Bhanuka might have to stay out. He's not had the best run of scores. I mean, there hasn't been a run at all in all those scores leading up to this, the last few games. But yeah, so KJP might edge out Bhanuka into the 11. I personally, I root for Vanidu to bat at number 5.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm going to keep repeating it. Hopefully it'll become permanent or someone will get on to it. But why I say that, Vanidu, we have a good product in Vanidu at the moment. It's a rare occurrence for us. So we need to make most of it. You know, when he bats, he plays spin naturally. You know, he's aggressive against
Yes.
spin. In England, we saw how he played against Adil Rashid. He was reading the spin really well. So his shots look to be a lot more natural. Like he'll hit over the top straight, or goes into the sweeps. So there's more of a natural way of batting that we don't see that amongst the other group of batsmen. So if you put him at number 5, gives him that freedom. And if he gets on top of the spinners, which South Africa have at the moment in Shamsi and Keshav Maharaj, we might be able to get on top of it. It's a momentum game. So we need to make more use of it. And also it helped Vani to give him an environment to blossom into, you know, the X factor all-rounder we talk about. At the moment, his bowling's on top of the game. He's number 2 in the rankings. Hopefully he'll be 1 very soon. But can we make use more of his batting? I have a feeling we can. So that's the dynamics I see. And yeah, hopefully we can get him in an environment that he can perform with the bat as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Chandi, Asalanka, and DDS, can all 3 of them play in a T20 team, Bora? Because I don't know, we played a lot of dot balls in the first T20. You know, we talked about our fitness regimes, and you know, talked about boys are fit, but we didn't take singles, and we didn't run our twos. And Sri Lankans, we were never a side where we hit sixes and win games. So, you know, we don't have that power. So it's something we have to look at. You said Banuka might have to go out of the team, but he's someone who can hit those sixes. So
yeah, he is good.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah. I think what's happened is Chandi's come into the 11. He scored the 50 and thrown in some headaches to the selection or the mix of the 11, right? But we need, like you say, we need to be able to bat from the top, make long innings, work the singles. Fitness, key component of fitness we talk about is, okay, if we are being fit, what is fitness going to bring to us? Can we steal the extra singles, you know? Or can we bring in the more power hitting to the back end of it? So, I mean, if we emphasize on fitness or the benefits of it, those are some of the things we could, you know, talk about.
Yeah, Bora. So, as you said, like, we are still trying to find the dynamics of our side. You know, we are building ourselves into towards the T20 World Cup, you know, for the T20 World Cup qualifiers first. So in your thinking, so what's the secret of having successful team? Like, is it consistency of squads? In your mind, what stands out?
No, spot on. I think you picked up the key word there, consistency in squads. I mean, we can relate to a lot of domestic teams who are, successful domestic teams. I mean, IPL stands out as a, you know, marquee tournament. So Mumbai Indians, Chennai Super Kings. Over here in Australia, across the Big Bash, you got the Perth Scorchers. They've been dominant sides. And you notice the playing group hasn't changed a lot. They've had strong, key players, but it's the same team. It hasn't changed regularly. So a consistent squad helps because each player knows its role in a very short format tournament or a game. That key positions are run by the same group of players. I mean, if you move into the international cricket stage, since 2007, there have been 6 T20 World Cups, right? Sri Lanka has been part of 3 World Cup finals. We've managed to win 1, you know. But our key factor was, I mean, we know the name stands out, Lasith Malinga. He was consistently the man who controlled the most difficult phase of the game. That's the death overs. So I mean, Mumbai Indians would bank on his performance there as well to a certain extent. The sad part is, though, I mean, we've had such a massive legend of the game of the back of having him in the team. We haven't had the transition to players picking up that. So that's the, we go back to the discussion of talent development. How could we have used him better to, nurture a bit more of talent coming through? But for us, with us having a strong T20 team or a winning team, you and I, we know we need a strong top heavy batting or a firing batting lineup for us, top heavy. Because back in the day in T20 formats, you had Mahela, Dilshan have been the guys who were firing up there, the KJP to a certain extent. We need to get into that momentum back on.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Malinga, and we haven't used his experience to we haven't used it to our advantage. But look at Bumrah. Mali has been playing for Mumbai for, I don't know for how long, maybe more than 10 years, and Bumrah has learned everything from him, and he's top of the game, top of the world.
You've seen the transition how from Malinga led Mumbai to a Bumrah led Mumbai now happening.
Yes.
Malinga led Sri Lanka to another player leading Sri Lanka in the bowling attack. There's a shortfall. It's unfortunate things happen like that, but with the current mix of players we have, with the current combination, they've announced the 15-member squad, which is a strong squad. We can't think of anyone who looks or we think could have made into the 11.
I don't think
I think of is Angelo Matheesh. So for me, he's an X factor. I'd love to have him in the squad. Everyone else self-picked. Maybe one player or two might have made it, but it's not like we are missing them massively in the squad. So this is, I think, the best squad we've got from the numbers to pick from.
Yeah. Just to wrap it up with the T20 series, Bora, what do you think about Matheesh Theekshana's bowling in the first T20? I think he didn't start well with the new ball. You are someone who used to use the new ball in the limited overs and T20 cricket. What do you think he should do?
Interesting. He's bowling the first, he's bowling with the new ball. So generally he's got to set the lineup up, something we've got to understand in the T20 tournament. He started first change. So could we maybe make use of him straight with the new ball? So it's a lot of the dynamics change. We talk about the dynamics always in batting. In the first over, the second over, generally they don't go hard as hard at the start. The batsmen just take a bit of it. Might be the time we use Mahesh Theekshana instead of the first change. When they're comfortable, bit of in a roll, they might settle into it. So still early stages. We've just seen one game. I mean, Mahesh still, it's not an excuse. He's got to learn to bowl first change as well, because the first 6 overs in a power play, they keep changing so that the teams don't get used to the plan that's on offer. I just have a feeling if Mahesh could be the opening bowler, it might change as momentum for him. Key thing is relating more of my experience of opening the bowling or leading bowling with a new ball is consistency of line, because having only 2 fielders out of the 30-yard circle means the boundary coverage you have are very limited. So that ideally you want any ball that is hit hard going into where the boundary fielders are. If it clears the field over their head, that's heads off to the batsman. But you want to, if at all the batsman's going hard and hitting the long ball, you want them to hit that 2 boundary riders. That's the plan I would have. I'm sure Mahesh has that plan, but might have to rethink, okay, if they manage to score at the early stage more boundaries where there weren't any boundary lines, it could be the lines that he was bowling. What was different? He might have to reduce the variations that he's doing, like especially in the power play, because if you're bowling an off spin, a carom ball, that means the ball's going both sides. So okay, there might be, if at all he's doing it, then he has to be really quick to change the field, so he can cover that. Those are the things he'll toss up, and the more he plays, he'll learn that. Our expectations now for Mahesh is here's the new ball, do the job. I mean, Mendy's had the same effect, right? We want him to get 3-4 wickets every time he plays. So it's a hard one. But for Mahesh, if a bit of advice or something to share would be to be a bit more consistent, probably get onto the stumps a bit more, so that he brings in the dismissals of LBW, bold more, and cuts the arms a bit more.
Yeah, Bora. I think Dasun Shanaka might have to give Mahela Jayawardene a call and ask him what did he do when Ajantha Mendis and Akila Dhananjaya first came into the one-day and T20 team. Mahela, as I remember, Mahela was the captain at both times, and he made sure that he used them wisely in the correct situations of the game. So he might have to make that call and ask, what did you do and what did you go and tell them?
No, exactly right. I think handling mystery spinners is an art of its own, and I think Mahela did that really well. So Dasun might actually have to, get on the phone, have a chat, see, okay, how do you manage the expectations? He might, because he's got the mystery bowling. That means he's bowling it both ways. Especially in power plays, you can't have the field or fielders, boundary riders to cover a lot of areas. So what he did well to get to manage to get the best out of Mendy's and Akila. So worth a call, Vida. Worth a call. It's also T20. I mean, the IPLs in the UAE following up is the T20 World Cup. So a lot of value for that phone conversation to be done.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll help out.
Talking about the World Cup squads, Vida, I mean, for us, Sri Lanka, the emphasis we've got to, I mean, we loosely use, we are heading into the World Cup, but the final line is we are playing a World Cup qualifying. So it's a realistically looking, it's a long tournament for us. In the qualifying group stages, we've got Ireland, Namibia, and Netherlands. From that group, 2 teams make it to the World Cup stage. The good thing is the group that we are in, once we move up the grade or go into the World Cup, we miss out on the stronger group, which is India and Pakistan on the other side of the border. So, I mean, you take that if you said, look, you're going to be in a World Cup group and these other teams you'll be playing against in the subcontinent or the UAE, that's a good one to have.
Yeah, I mean, looking at our squad, I mean, there's no surprises there. I mean, the squad looks the same from the squad currently playing against South Africa. I think the only guy who missed out in the 15 is Akila Dhananjaya. Lahiru Madsanka came in instead of him. And as you said, this qualifying tournament, playing few games in the qualifying tournament will be a blessing for us, Bora. Because looking at our squad, there's not many matches under our belt. I mean, I think the only one, maybe couple of players who has played more than 50 T20 internationals in our squad. So these few games will be very important for us. Then we can try out few combinations as well.
Yeah. The squad combination, a lot of new faces, like not many numbers behind their backs. So it's a lot of it is owing to our performances in the past. We've had to rejig a lot of players because we didn't get the results I think we wanted. The guy who's got more games under their belt is KJP by the looks of it. But the combination, we want to get that combination right, playing around those key players like your KJPs, Avishka, Vanidu Dushmanta, and Dasun leading the side. So around that, how can we fill the squad so they help the star players to perform? So that's a combination that from Mickey Arthur, from the technical committee even downwards, needs to find really fast for us.
Yeah. I think let's quickly go through these other squads. Looking at West Indies, Scott Bora, Kiran Pollard's West Indies, I think they're setting for a last dance with their generation of great T20 cricketers. They still got Chris Gale there, Dwayne Bravo. It's a team of T20 stars.
Yeah, looks the way. I mean, we talk about consistency. We've got a team that's, I mean, in T20 cricket, they've led the charge, right? They've got, it's going to be good entertainment having them. I'm sure Dwayne Bravo is going to release a song closer to the tournament,
Yes.
into the World Cup. Yeah. We got the universe boss, Chris Gale, will make a statement. They're good entertainers. What do you reckon? Gangnam Style will make a comeback, or there might be something different this year?
I saw a few snapshots of Chris Gale wearing a turban, and I think he's going to release some Punjabi music or something. So I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, that's sure. What do you reckon? Java might be given a stint in the UAE?
I don't know. They might fly him down. He'll have to do hotel quarantine for 14 days, but I don't know. He might get a appearance in a game or two, maybe. Given that he's very popular.
Yeah. With this, looking at the squads, I mean, not a lot of teams can say they have momentum going into the World Cup. Probably if South Africa pulls this win if they win against Sri Lanka, they probably have that slightly ahead. A lot of the other teams, I mean, with the COVID situation, they're a lot underprepared or don't know their combinations. Australia over here, I mean, they're pretty much doing nothing or unheard of, they're a bit, I mean, we've seen most of the players fly out to the UAE to train up there, but as a team, they haven't had that luxury of preparing for the T20 World Cup, whereas Sri Lanka, at least we are playing matches together in a team learning. So a lot of challenges for all the teams out there. So clear favorites? Do you have clear favorites, Vida, in this going into this? So it looks like an open tournament.
I'll have to go with India because they're playing the IPL in UAE. That's what 6-7 weeks of cricket, and they'll be in the best position. But England, they're also a good T20 team.
Yeah, I just have a feeling for me, New Zealand. I think they'll hit there. I mean, got a good bowling attack. Guptill's up there at the top of the order, generally takes it away. They'll be silent contenders for the World Cup. India's rightly so. India's strong. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better combination out there. But top three batters all right-handed with will the left armers have a say against them? So,
England got Timar Mills.
Yeah,
they brought him in.
That's the combination here. I talk about matchups happening. So Australia has Stark. He's been firing through.
Yep.
So
even Bangladesh, Bora, they had a good series
yeah.
against Australia.
Yep.
You know, these pitches,
You never
they
know,
suit their style.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be an exciting tournament, like you say, with us. So keep eyes on it.
Yeah. So when we talk about Team Australia, Bora, as you said, most of the players are flying to UAE to join their IPL franchises. But there's few things happening in Australia cricket. There's some troubles brewing.
Yeah, bit unsettled there over here. As in the media, there's a player-coach relationship seems to be not in the best place to be. We've seen the Cricket Australia come out in the media as well. That not only Cricket Australia. Justin Langer has come out in the media and said he's got a lot to improve on his coaching as well. How his style of coaching. Players have come out and said they are finding it a bit difficult to play in that environment. And then you got former players come in and say, you got to toughen up and play to a style that is required as well. So it's interesting. And then when you look at the combination, they've got Aaron Finch leading the attack or the team. He's due for runs. He's not had the best Big Bash tournament into it. And then the likes of David Warner, Steve Smith coming
Stark,
into the
Maxwell.
11. Yeah. The two, I emphasize on Smith and Warner. We haven't seen them in an Australian team in a while, in a T20 circuit. So it's going to be interesting how they'll settle in. But Stark, left arm factor being there, he's always good in white ball cricket. Every World Cup he plays, he got wickets under his belt.
Remember the first ball of the World Cup final to Macklem.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about Justin Langer, Bora, I think he played hard cricket at his time. He's someone who came out and said, I'll go through a brick wall for Steve Waugh, right? So he's used to playing cricket that way, and this generation of cricketers might not respond to that style of coaching. Maybe some will, but not all of them will. So maybe that's why Justin Langer come out and said, I have to change some ways the way I'm coaching. So it'll be interesting. Right. It's very hard to patch up things once things got out of hand. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Yeah, he needs to. End of the day, a coach is as good as the team and the results that is produced out there. Yeah. So he'll want to show the results. I have a strong feeling if we in the test arena, England coming out here, Australia are a strong team to beat. England are doing well, but if you take the conditions and take the 11 England is playing, they've got 3 right arm fast bowlers who bowl at 80 miles to an hour. If it doesn't swing and good flat tracks, Australia is going to enjoy that bowling attack when they come over here. So I think Australia is slightly ahead in the Ashes, but Justin Langer has a lot to do to make sure that Ashes do stay, Australia can be on top.
I was looking forward to go for the Boxing Day test this summer, Bora. Don't know whether that's gonna happen or not.
If you get the jab, you might be able to watch the game with us. If not, sorry, it might be on TV.
Yeah, I'm getting mine next week.
That's
I
good.
booked it, and yeah,
That's the way forward.
that's it.
Vida, I mean, we've talked a lot about T20 cricket. What do you reckon? I mean, we've heard the news coming from England, the Test series, which was poised going into the last match, didn't actually kick off. A lot
Oh,
of disappointed fans, a lot of controversies around the series. What happened? What's your take on it, or what do you reckon?
so a lot of things happen within like 6-7 hours of time, and it
Yeah.
got cancelled at the 11th hour for us. We all know that match got cancelled due to COVID fears. One of their physios tested positive on Wednesday, leading up to the preparations of the test. The test which was scheduled to start on Friday, and I mean, initial statement from ECB was India has forfeited, and match was the win was given to England, but later it was removed, right? So, but
Yeah.
there's
Maybe
a
a
lot.
drop in communication with her. One would have said, "Yeah, we're calling off. It's a tie," and everyone said they've come out and announced it's a tie, and India's probably said, "No, it's not a tie. We want. We
Yeah.
are ahead of the series. Give us the win."
Well,
So communication there.
yeah. So India, the time difference comes into the contention as well,
Oh
because
yeah, true.
the two boards trying to deal with things. One cricket board is in England, so it's a debacle.
Yeah.
So what happened was head coach Sastry and the bowling coach and the fielding coach, they tested positive earlier in the earlier test in London, right?
Yeah.
And but the players, they tested negative, but less than 3 hours to go in the first day. They said, no, we need another test. And they were waiting for the results, and they wanted to play the next day, but later
Yeah.
later they said, no, we don't want to do it. They just canceled the test. But at the moment, as we speak, IPL franchises, they're flying their players down to UAE, in chartered flights. So I don't know. I'm starting to wonder: was this just COVID, or because IPL starts in was supposed to start like 7 days after the conclusion of the test match.
Okay.
So maybe they didn't want to take a risk with COVID coming into an IPL bubble with all the Indian players, because during the summer in England, Bora, they didn't really have a bubble in their Indian team didn't really have a bubble.
Yeah.
Only in the last test, they said we try to stay in the rooms, order room service, and because after this test, you're straight away going to UAE for IPL.
Yeah. I mean, we are seeing crowds out there. We've seen in the English Premier League, you've seen crowds in the test matches, so they would have been relaxed, but would have tightened up because you're heading into an IPL environment. You got to keep the numbers or mindful of the risk associated. So they would have closed up on the bubble a bit more.
Yeah.
But I've seen Michael Vaughan strongly saying it's IPL's influence. From a player's point of view, you're uneasy in the squad. One thing is you're not sure, is there a player positive or what's the go? And then you have to focus on 5 days of test cricket. That's also a hard one. So you can imagine from a player point of view, but also the massive factor that we talk about, the IPL. I mean, it could be a massive result as well. So it's cricket's at the moment driven around the IPL. There's a massive influence on the game,
Yep.
but it's a good thing. It's changed the game completely. And you heard it in the soccer environment as well. Country over club or club over country concept coming up. I think this is the first proper instances in
Yes.
cricket that we are getting that discussion now with something to show.
Well, England can't really come out and say things because they came back from South Africa as well.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. But talking about players, Bora, I mean, they only had one physio. You and me, we both know, coming to the end of the season, and this is the 5th test, and you carry a lot of injuries, and the physio will work on all the players, and so it's natural. You fear that you get COVID from the physio, because doing physiotherapy is not something you can do remote, right? You had to be right there then and there. So, and but the test came negative. Even the second test, they came negative, but they decided they're not gonna play, and they, as I said, they're traveling to UAE to play IPL. But England players, David Malan, Johnny Bairstow, and Chris Wokes, they pulled out citing personal reasons. So I don't know whether they got a call from ECB. I don't know.
Not sure. It'll be interesting to see what Josh Butler does. I know he missed out the test to be with his newborn one before. Now, would he go back into a bubble in the IPL? And then, so a lot of questions will be thrown around the players. Okay, what team influenced you? But from a cricketing point of view, the IPL has to go on. We've got to. That's where the teams. It's a lot of players meet up. It's good entertainment. They've shifted the IPL to the UAE, so it shows the factors around that. It's a tournament that has to go on. I mean, in the past, we didn't have a T20 World Cup in Australia, but the IPL, they rescheduled it and it's playing in. It's a tournament that's going to happen irrespective of what's going on. It'll be what teams go in the best environment. I mean, we know Pep Guardiola of Cricket Mahelas leading the charge in Mumbai Indians. That camp looks more settled or more confident in their group. Few of our Sri Lankan boys going out to RCB. So it'll be good if they make the playing 11. I have a feeling Vanitu might be in the playing 11 straight along. It can only get better for them. They might be able to share their experiences with this young playing group that we have in Sri Lanka as, okay, what are the matchups between players? What are the strategies of playing through certain phases of the game? That I think we are still learning. That's honest opinion from what we see.
Yeah, so by the time this episode go to air on Wednesday, we will know who won the T20 series, but hopefully it'll be a Sri Lankan series win. Then we can talk more about it next week. So give us your suggestions and comments on our social media platform, so that we can give you better content.
Yeah, I think with that's a wrap up for today. Thank you for joining us with the Sri Lankan Cricket Podcast. As Vida said, we'd like you to subscribe to this podcast. We are on Apple, Google, Spotify. We've launched into YouTube as well.
Yes.
So feel free to leave your comments.
Yes.
Same handle can be found on all the search engines.
Yeah, and Bora and I are both active on Twitter. Give us a follow, and if you have If you have any feedback or suggestions, or if you have any questions, connect us via Twitter, or you can send those to our Facebook community page as well, and we will we'll make sure we add all those comments into our upcoming episodes. And all the details of our social platforms will be in our show notes. We really appreciate if you can leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts with generous 5 stars. That will help other Sri Lankan cricket-loving listeners like you to find this podcast.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for joining. See you next week.